Hello, my name is Wendy Cotton, and I want to talk to you briefly about public theology, emotional intelligence, and community renewal. And this is a synthesis of Crisis in the Village by Robert Franklin, The Color of Emotional Intelligence by Harris, and The Handbook of Conflict Resolution, Coleman, Deutsch, and Marcus. Village in Crisis. And so in this course, we have examined what Robert Franklin considers the three pillars or anchors of the community, one being the church, one being the family, one being the Black college. And each of these, although they operate independently, they play an integral role. They are inextricably linked to each other. The church and the family, you don't have the church without the family. And in many ways, one might consider that you also don't have, you can't have a well-functioning family without at least some principles of faith involved that comes from the church. And the Black college is considered the intellectual anchor that cultivates scholarship and ethical leadership, while the church provides a spiritual and moral nurturing and anchors both the family and the Black college in that way. Franklin calls for renewal of the African American village through these three anchors that provide moral stability. Public theology challenges believers to move from private devotion to active engagement with public issues. And that is where we get to public theology. So the church is considered the soul of the village that Robert Franklin intends to, that he is calling to be renewed. The church, it remains the spiritual and moral soul of the village. It is the grounding. It is the womb where faith is incubated in the church. Franklin reminds us that faith must be lived out, not just privately, but as it relates to public theology as prophetic witness. And so by practicing emotional intelligence, and that comes from the Harris book, clergy and other spiritual leaders and community leaders are able to approach the resolution of conflict or the management of conflict in different ways, particularly with a focus on empathy and self-awareness, restorative justice. These principles promote healing within congregations and communities. The family is the foundation of all moral formation. It is the incubator of faith. The family cultivates faith, resilience, and wisdom, and this goes across generations. It is maintained through storytelling. It is maintained through traditions, faith traditions, which includes the Black church. Practical theology requires both the structural and spiritual care for the family. It is not just spiritual care, but it is meeting the needs of the family, those emotional needs, physical needs, in terms of health, physical health, mental health, economic needs, socioeconomic, vocational needs. There's so many that nobody is the Black community is not monolithic. It's not just one way, but it is multifaceted. And each individual in the Black community has unique needs that should be addressed through the application and praxis of practical theology. The family is also made in what we call the Imago Dei, the divine image of God. And so restoring family health affirms the divine image in every person. It's not just the picture of Jesus hanging on the wall. That is the divine image of God. As a matter of fact, many will argue that that is in stark contrast to what we know through anthropology, what Jesus looked like. However, it is not about the physical appearance, but it is about the ability to be able to see God in each of us, his image reflected in human form in every person. The Black college is the mind, the intellect of the village. HBCUs cultivate both scholarship and service. We develop leaders who integrate and go through various sectors of life with intellectual ability and also with as a moral compass and the application of ethics. Franklin's vision calls for higher education, the Black college, to align knowledge with moral responsibility. It is not just what you know, it is how you apply what you know. And it should be applied with empathy, with grace, with mercy, with the end goal of restoration and reparation. Scholarship, you will find that in the Black college. And I'm talking about rigorous curriculum and rigorous applications of the curriculum. It should not be assumed that PWIs present a more rigorous opportunity for learning. That simply has not been found to be true and accurate. And so on HBCU campuses, we focus not just on scholarship, but on service. And we engage in the community through many service organizations, civic organizations, our Greek letter organizations, and we do volunteer work in the community. We are engaging in ways that will attract other young people to our HBCU campuses when it is time for them to go to college. Conflict management is one of the major concepts that we studied this semester, this term. And one of the ways to manage conflict is through peacemaking. Well, that is the lens that we as public theologians should look at conflict management, not as retributive, okay, not to repay somebody evil for evil, not in a punitive manner, but in a way that is restorative. So it involves cooperation theory, teaches us the Dutch teaches us that, Deutsch, the author of I think it's the Coleman book, teaches that collaboration leads to positive outcomes. And so when there's a collaborative effort where you have to work on a common goal, that often leads to positive outcomes. Reflective learning is a framework that emphasizes growth through experience. So as you experience various things, you learn, you grow, you improve, you evolve. And then there's biblical reconciliation, where Jesus models reconciliation that prioritizes relationships over the win. It's not so important that you win. What's more important is that relationships are restored. How do you do that? It is with emotional intelligence coupled with moral leadership. Harris defines emotional intelligence as the discipline and strength of empathy. The discipline of strength and empathy. When moral leaders integrate head, heart, hands, they embody what we call integrity, courage, and imagination. And so the head is where we get our intellectual discernment. It's where our thoughts are developed and nurtured. Our heart is where we feel empathy, and we feel for humankind. We're emotionally aware of what is going on with our fellow man, fellow women. Our hands symbolize that faith without works is dead. And so it's no good to know something and not do something. And so you must have the intellectual discernment. You must feel and empathize in your heart, and you must put your hands to work in faithful action. Transformative leadership from conflict to community. It starts at the top with knowledge. You have to understand the theological and emotional frameworks that are involved with conflict resolution. And it's not just intellectual understanding, but also spiritual discernment about the emotional roots of division. Often what you see being manifested is not the root cause of the conflict. And so you need to be able to discern what's behind what you cannot see, what is behind what you're seeing. That leads to action. And we're talking about systemic change grounded in moral imagination. It is not enough to have a one-time action, but this action should be something that can be sustained over a long period of time. And so it needs to be systemic, and it needs to be grounded in moral imagination. And then when we apply these three principles, transformation is able to materialize. It renews the community through prophetic witness. Franklin says knowledge without action is simply incomplete. So what are my personal reflections about what we have learned in this course? One of the things that that I'm taking away from this is that it really deepened my understanding of the principles of conflict management and how public theology integrates with those principles in order to bring about restoration in the community. It's not just academic, but there are definitely spiritual principles involved in that. And then there's the professional integration in my ministerial and professional roles as a K-12 and higher ed professor. I can integrate emotional wisdom and discernment to cultivate peace. And that is a necessary skill to have. And it is something that needs to be cultivated over a period of time. It's not a destination, but it's a journey, and you're ever learning. I want to thank you, Dr. Danielle Boone, for your guidance this term. Thank you for what you share with us in the class and allowing us to grow in what we know. God bless you. Here are my references that were used in this presentation. Thank you for your time and attention.